Coming up on District Docket, the Obama health care law. It's being attacked inside and outside the Supreme Court. What will the fallout be? Legal experts are here to weigh in.
And the Rush Limbaugh controversy heats up. Could the radio personality be sued in civil or criminal court for defamation? We'll have that and more coming up on District Docket. And I'm Yasmin El-Sabawi.
Straight to it. On today's docket, we'll discuss the future of Obama's health care law after Supreme Court's review. Will it survive or fail? Will Rush Limbaugh's controversial comments against a female Georgetown Law University student lead to criminal prosecution? And are existing birth control and abortion rights under attack? And finally, is it legal for employers to demand login credentials from applicants or even current employers as a condition of employment? We'll discuss it on this segment of District Docket.
Is President Obama's health care plan unconstitutional? That's what the Supreme Court is deciding after 3 days of oral arguments last week. The hearings drew protesters from both sides, and Arushi Sharma has the story.
What part of Obama's healthcare overhaul law will survive? That was the question on hand after the Supreme Court wrapped up its review of the historic case. The justices consider what happens to the broader law if they strike down the requirement to buy insurance, and whether the expanded Medicaid program unfairly steps on state powers.
The constitutional question is, did Congress reach beyond its powers in issuing a mandate? But listening to the Supreme Court, it seemed like they were arguing the wisdom of the case rather than any constitutional issue about how far Congress went.
But demonstrators outside the court, both supporters and opponents of Obama, made sure their voices were heard.
I support the Affordable Care Act because I believe it's going to help patients and it's already helping millions of people.
But inside the courtroom, conservative judges raised serious questions about the constitutionality of the health care bill. Much of the doubt surrounded the requirement for Americans to buy health care or face a penalty. Swing vote Justice Anthony Kennedy seemed skeptical of the arguments put forth by the Obama administration, signaling that the law goes too far, while the four more liberal justices asked questions indicating that Congress acted within its power in crafting the law.
We feel this is totally unconstitutional. The mandates are unconstitutional, and the government should not be telling everyone they need to buy health care.
Experts predict the court's decision, expected to come in just before its session ends in June, will be close. This is Arushi Sharma, District Docket.
Joining us now to discuss more about the Supreme Court case is attorney Tom Simeone. Tom is a founder and managing partner of Simeone and Miller. He practices in Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. and has been selected as one of the leading 500 plaintiffs lawyers in the United States. Also with us is Adam Sorwer. Adam is a reporter for Mother Jones and has written for the Washington Post and other notable publications. So, let's talk about what the Supreme Court can and can't do. Adam, what do you think?
If they so choose, they could overturn the entire law and pretty much send Congress and Obama back to the drawing board. It's also unlikely that in the near future, Congress, divided as it is, would be able to put together anything as comprehensive as what we saw pass last time around, at least not for many years.
Tom, what do you think?
I agree. They have the option to strike down the entire law or particular provisions of it. I think in this case here, if they were to strike down the entire law, it might actually be something they do for the benefit of the legislature, in the sense that they don't want to pass legislation or allow legislation to stand with key provisions taken out, because that may not be what Congress intended.
What do you think that they will do?
Well, right now, as everyone who's watching this says, is you're trying to determine what to do based on their questions, and that's a notoriously bad indicator. Tough questions can simply be a justice doing their due diligence or thinking out loud to a certain degree. So the tone so far of the questions has some hostility. Most people are saying that the justices are hostile to the act and they may strike it down in whole or in part. But again, that's like trying to call a game halfway through it. We're not quite there yet.
Adam, are you prepared to call it?
I'm definitely not prepared to call it. I think what people were somewhat surprised by was the fact that a lot of legal elites had sort of suggested that this was a slam dunk case, that it would be as many as 8-1 justices voting to uphold the act. And I think it's clear from oral arguments that that's probably not going to be the case. I think Justice Scalia signaled very clearly that he didn't intend to uphold the law. But however, I do think it's way too early to start mind reading the justices and deciding what really hasn't been decided yet.
Well, speaking of justices, what do we think Kennedy's role is in all this? Is he the swing vote? Who is the swing vote here? Adam, you were at the oral arguments.
Well, I think it's sort of hard to say whether Justice Kennedy is a swing vote or not. I mean, we'll find out.
You have your 4 more liberal justices and 4 more conservative. Coming out of the arguments, however, there were some people who were saying that based on his questions, he seemed to be a little more aligned with the right wing, and then maybe Justice Roberts, because he was tough on both sides, might be the key swing vote. Again, this is based just on questions, but Roberts and Kennedy seem to be the key votes that everyone's trying to gauge right now.
Justice Roberts, rather, has an extremely good poker face, however. He's always very good at playing both sides of an argument just to see what the attorney's responses are. So again, it's just, short of magic powers or a mind-reading machine, there's no way we can know what the court is going to decide.
What's in store for Obama if a portion or the entire law is struck? Adam, what do you think?
Well, I think the more important question is what's in store for the 32 million people who were going to get health care under this law, particularly if the Supreme Court decides to strike down the Medicaid expansion, which was intended to ensure 16 million people who are pretty much at the bottom rungs of American society. I think that's the more important question. I'm not sure what it means for Obama or his presidency. I mean, this is his signature domestic accomplishment, so it's obviously not very good, but the consequences are obviously a lot more dire for the people who were going to get health insurance under the bill.
Well, a lot of people were protesting against the bill outside of the court. So, Tom, what do you think is in store for Obama?
I think for President Obama, this can go, and this is obviously not much of a prediction, but one of 2 ways, in the sense that it could give him a real big argument that he needs more Democrats, and Democrats need the support of the people to accomplish these things that they want to accomplish, because the Republicans or the conservatives are stopping them both in the legislature and now in the courts.
You all have seen the quote from Solicitor General Verrilli. He said, Congress has struggled with the issue of how to deal with this profound problem of 40 million people without health care for many years. It's made a judgment. Maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong, but it's something about which the people of the United States can deliberate and they can vote, and if they think it needs to be changed, they can change it. Now, why would he say that?
Well, there's a couple of views on that. One is he's definitely telling the court, this may not be what you like, but you need to defer to the legislature. And in this particular case, when it is a law that's at issue as to whether the legislature went too far, you do want to argue deference to the legislature. It's a very strong argument because they are relying on that.
Well, this is Solicitor General Verrilli essentially appealing to the court's conservatism. He's implying that it would be activist for the justices to overturn the law simply on the basis that they think it's bad policy. Judges aren't supposed to do that. They're supposed to overturn laws if they're unconstitutional. But it became very obvious during oral arguments that the justices were hostile, not even necessarily to the actual legal provisions of the law, but to the law itself as policy. At one point, Justice Antonin Scalia brought up the Cornhusker kickback, which was a sort of a monetary reward to Ben Nelson, state of Nebraska, that didn't actually end up in the bill, but it was sort of it expressed the hostility of the justice towards the bill as policy. And I think Solicitor General Verrilli was really trying to say you can't overturn the law just because you don't like it. It has to be unconstitutional.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here with us today. I wish we could talk about this longer, but we're wrapping up.
Coming up next, celebrity attorney Gloria Allred is calling for a lawsuit against Rush Limbaugh. We'll discuss why he might be facing civil or criminal claims. A legal expert is here to weigh in. And Facebook Privacy will examine the legalities of companies asking potential employees for their Facebook logins. We'll have that and more coming up.